The Pueblo Star-Journal presents Historic Places, Living Stories. Historic Places, Living Stories is a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast. This episode, From the Nuckolls Packing Company to Watertower Place, was produced and narrated by Gregory Howell. This episode features Ryan McWilliams, who is the owner and visionary behind the adaptive reuse project in the Grove neighborhood.
Receiving down payment assistance from CHAFA allowed us to expand our options for what kind of houses we were looking at.
CHAFA is Colorado's trusted partner for homeownership. Visit chfainfo.com/yourhome. CHAFA is an equal housing lender.
Welcome to the Voices of Pueblo podcast. My name is Gregory Howell with the Pueblo Star-Journal, and today we have a special episode, part of our Historic Places Living Stories series. As you might remember, we did the Goodnight Barn for our first episode, and currently in the July issue of the print edition of the Pueblo Star-Journal, there's a very long story called Historic Places, Living Stories, Watertower Place, and the Future of the Past. The former Nuckolls Packing Company is being reimagined as a vertical urban village where Pueblo's industrial past can become a center for commerce, culture, learning, and discovery. So for those of you that have not taken a tour, or if you're not familiar with what this massive 250,000 square foot brick building is in the Grove, this article is really helpful because we do go all the way back to the building's founding. We talk about all the amazing people in the Nuckolls kind of chain of leadership, and especially in 1928 when G.H. Nuckolls passed away. The board of directors appointed Marion president, and Della, her older sister, became vice president and treasurer. And it was the first time for women to be at that high corporate executive level in the United States for a major food company. So the story is really extraordinary in so many different ways. And I encourage you to read through that. But I'm very fortunate today. We're actually recording live at Watertower Place in one of the special event spaces that's on the first floor. And actually, its use was for pretty much wholesale and also retail, but if there was a whole carcass, a half or a quarter carcass, they were all up on the racks, and then they would run them right out to the trucks out in front, and those would go to restaurants, they'd go to stores, they would go to all kinds of different places. So it is one of the most popular and the largest event room that we have, and it's really, really fun to be in this space. I live in the Grove myself, so it's kind of a neighborhood community center, but I've got Ryan McWilliams, literally the crazy person who has taken on this amazing kind of project, which you have to be kind of crazy to take it on, and those are usually the things that people who see and can kind of create a vision for the future. And adaptive reuse with historic properties is one of Pueblo's great, opportunities because we have so many. So Ryan, thank you for joining me in your building today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you so much. We've had a lot of fun with this series, and I think what we're going to do today in terms of our conversation is, because we've covered a lot of the history, we've covered a lot of that, and we encourage anyone to come. We're going to be doing tours later in the summer on Saturdays, so stay tuned for that information, and you can sign up and come and see what's been happening, because there has been a lot of little projects taking place all over the campus, and that's always really exciting to see that, because when you have 250,000 square feet, things just don't happen overnight, as you know.
Very well said.
But I think what we can do is, let's update everyone and kind of give, our listeners a sense of where the project is and how you have, kind of progressed. Because when COVID hit, of course, like everyone else, there were basic stops, pauses, and things of that sort. And then, of course, when you just look at the nature of the local economy, you look at all these different things, they all play very, very well to, the greater story, because Watertower Place is housing, it's, business, it's, arts, it's culture. The list goes on and on. Literally, when you did the PUD, the special zoning process, we basically have a whole series of zoning categories, which of course is really interesting for us. So maybe what we can do is let's kind of pick up after COVID and talk about kind of what kind of started right after COVID, what didn't, and then also we can just kind of talk about some of the projects and maybe some of the things that have evolved, over time, because events in particular, that's one thing that you've really provided the community with, a great opportunity, to have any kind of event, whether it's a birthday, whether it's a bat mitzvah, whether it's a graduation party, launches, you've done them all.
So thanks, Gregory. I think to start, what we did is we came into this 6 acres under the roof, and we started cleaning out the mess that was here, and it was 1.6 million pounds of homeless trash that we had to pick up by hand, and we had to pay to dispose of. So once we got through all of that.
And how long that's a lot. When you just talk about the amount, but and it was everything. You found a lot of really interesting things in the mix.
We did, yes. And we want to make sure we let everyone know too that we save everything, because whether an old piece of steel, if it's, wood, if it's, buckets of nails, it doesn't matter what it is. We're repurposing absolutely everything we can, because the story is so interesting.
That's right.
There are so many little pieces and parts and knickknacks that we have turned into furniture that we are trying to make sure we honor that past that was here at the building for, a century.
And I think that's something, we've never done that yet on the website. We've talked about it, but like at the elevator, instead of going out and buying, material, whether it be tile or steel or wood, you took the wood from the old oil house that was the shack that was in the back there, and you refinish it. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and that is what frames the elevator shafts.
Absolutely.
I think we need, and you did the same thing in the Alpha Beta room, where you repurpose. So I think we need to have, because we're repurposing, reusing, upcycling. That is a huge part of the story here with adaptive reuse. I think we need to share that with people, because I think they would love to know where that wood came from and what's the story behind it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you do look around the building. I tell my guys often, we have a mantra here at Watertower, and we basically state that any job we do has to last 100 years or more. And
really?
If we're not doing
in terms of the work that you're like construction, steel fabrication, and all that kind of stuff?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. If we don't have a finished product that's a 100-year product at the end of the day, we're doing it wrong. And so we're really putting a very high bar that we are setting for absolutely everything. So that's the quality of the materials, that's the quality of the workmanship. We want this to last for another, multiple centuries. So I give them a hard time sometimes. We have the best group ever. But sometimes I say, you guys did that too well. No one's going to know that it was old and original because it looked so good.
Yeah.
So almost everything you see, though, I don't know if we have actually purchased much of anything when it comes to the aesthetics of the building. Due to the fact that we've got so much in the area, and even though we threw out 1.6 million pounds of true trash, which to answer your earlier question, took us almost 18 months. We were in here, we had certain rooms that we were walking across the floor, what we thought was a floor, and it was actually full of trash and debris from the next level down.
Oh my gosh! So they just threw it in there.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was just such horrible condition, though. Between the dirt and the filth, originally, you could walk across, and we were taking forklifts and dollies and people walking across an entire room, and didn't realize that was actually a hole all the way through to the basement, and it was just full of horrible things. So we got that all cleaned out at the time we had, no windows, no power.
It was like a ship in dry dock.
It was, yeah. We had miner's lights on our hard hats.
I remember.
And we had generators that
Right.
we were going through every few months because we would run them constantly.
Right.
And we would have lights set up here and there, but it was quite an adventure, because if you think about your job for the next year and a half, and your job for the next year and a half is to go pick up some of the worst homeless trash on the planet, and basically just pay to dispose of that. So it was quite an event. But when we got through to COVID, by that time, we sort of had a really good start.
Yeah.
We had brought in 3 new power sources. We had 2 new gas lines. We had our multiple water supplies. We had some services that we were able to bring back to the building.
Right.
So we could go into about 10% of the rooms, and we would have a light.
Right. There you go. I remember.
90% still
I
didn't,
remember.
but- But we also did not miss a single day during COVID, which was really
Right.
nice. We all came, and it was sort of a safe haven for a lot of different people, because it was so unknown at the time.
Right.
And no one knew if this was super serious, not serious, what the scoop was. But we had 6 acres under the roof.
Yeah, and you had
in
more than
which-
8 feet if you needed to separate yourself from anyone, because in Johnny's boiler shop, they're like 20 feet apart.
Yeah, 80 feet was not uncommon.
Right, exactly,
Yeah, so
exactly.
everyone could have their own room.
Right.
And basically do their thing. So we still supported all of those people. Not a single person missed a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
They all supported their families. It was wonderful. And we had a lot of people that even came in that were from other organizations, that they would say, hey, I can't be at my house again because
Right.
family is doing, something, and I really need to get some work done.
Right.
Can I sit in the corner of a dark room
Yeah, exactly.
and work on my computer?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we let them do that, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
So it was wonderful, because it really brought a lot of people together. Little bit of a safe haven. Super. It was a great example of how resilient Pueblo is, how strong Pueblo is,
Right.
and just how great the people
Right.
are. So I actually look back now and say COVID was really positive for me anyway, and for Watertower Place,
Right.
because we saw sort of the best of Pueblo, Colorado.
Yeah, and it kind of forces you. I mean, situations like COVID, natural disasters, man-made or natural, they force humanity to really think in new and interesting ways. And clearly, it just opened up opportunities.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
totally. I mean, now who goes to a brick and mortar office anymore? Because now we can do it. We can actually work from home, and it's not such a bad thing. And I think some people should never go to the office. They're just, they can work from home. They're productive, but sometimes some people should just stay away.
I agree with you.
But no, I remember that was a really powerful time, because, and most people don't realize, Watertower Place, the former Nuckolls packing company, it's literally right downtown. I mean, I didn't realize it until after someone told me, the water towers, you can see them from everywhere. As soon as I kind of registered that and looked at it, it seems like everywhere I would go in town, those water towers would just show up. You could see them from anywhere, from whether you're from Mesa Junction, whether you're from the Riverwalk, whether you're on the north side, you can always see those particular towers. But I know when Shane Jarrett was helping you, amazing mason, great guy who understands, and he was the one that showed me how you were saving the bricks, the grout. You were saving every single thing that came out, because if you needed to put it back, or you needed to know what the grout looked like, what the colors looked like, what the textures of the bricks, because this thing's got 2 million bricks just on the facade alone.
Yes.
And then you've got the unique architecture, because you've got brick, you've got cork, then you've got brick, you've got lathe and plaster, you've got all of these traditional materials.
And it's funny you bring him up too, because, that's a great example of one of the just very small things that we do. Is we even went down to Texas because of Shane's knowledge, and we bought a specific type of lime, because there's hydrated, there's non-hydrated. There's 100 different little details that go into any mix of mortar. Well, we went through every single detail with Shane so that we could put back the exact mortar that has served so well over time, and it is a wonderful product, but you can't go and buy it. You have to buy individual ingredients. You have to mix it yourself.
Right.
And we have done that. And we have gone to pretty significant lengths to make sure that we've tested, we have gone through all the engineering details to make sure that it is flexible enough, yet strong enough that it, again, 100 years or more plus product.
Exactly. When you look at this building, which was finished in 1917, even when you came in, water is probably the worst thing for an abandoned building. Water. It just literally gets into everywhere. And there were a lot of areas in the building, both inside and also on the outside, where you could see, where the bricks weren't pointed anymore. You needed to really, they were literally, I remember seeing some that were literally crawling out, on the edge. So I remember Shane really dialing in on that, but I didn't realize the diversity of all the different types of the bricks that came in from all over, because in Pueblo, from 1890 to about 1915, 1920, there were over 3,000 brick buildings that were built in Pueblo during that period. And it's interesting because that's a lot of brick buildings and not enough bricks. They couldn't locally source all of the bricks here. So it was Akron, Ohio was a big, those really high density, they're like 1.5 inch thick that you can't break, that are on the inside. Those things are amazing.
Yeah, I think we currently have 5 different sources of brick for this building. And 2 fun facts, I guess, with that. So if you think about how big this building is, it's 6 acres under the roof, 250,000 square feet. They built this entire building, which means they poured all the concrete. They, put up all the forms first with wood. They had to make their own concrete. They didn't call a concrete truck back then.
That's right.
They had all of the masons that put in the millions of brick that are in this structure, and they did it all within 13 months.
It's amazing. Plus, isn't it, I think, the actual pounds per square, the load is like 2,500 pounds per square inch.
Yes.
That you could actually carry that weight in this.
Yeah, so this building's very unique in the fact that it is very industrially heavy duty. So of all that brick, interior and exterior, so interior walls are made of brick, exterior walls are made of brick, but none of the walls are load bearing.
Right.
Which means every floor and the roof, they all float and they sit on columns on the interior of the building. So this is, again, where we later ran into issues with regulation and building codes and others, because it's such a unique building. This is basically the same type of a building as the Pentagon. So it's a steel structure encased in concrete, and then you have these brick curtain walls. So the floors float. That's why the brick is in such good shape structurally,
right? Because
it can move over time a little bit, and it's actually floating the walls are floating separate from the rest of the structure. But our thinnest floor at 9 inches thick has 1 inch rebar every 6 inches. And our thinnest floor is being 9 inches. Our thickest goes up to 33 inches.
Yeah,
thick.
It's amazing.
So if you were to build a new heavy duty structure today, your heavy duty structure would carry about 200, 250 pounds per square foot. And that's something like if you built the Denver Broncos Stadium.
Sure.
Big football stadium. This building, our lightest floor, and it goes up from there. It's not 200 pounds. It is 2,200 pounds.
Right.
And it goes up from there. And they really overdid it for a lot of reasons. But when you think about the load that they did have, where they were taking everything to the very top floor to start, and it was a live load, which means it's bouncing up and down all the time.
Exactly.
They built this thing to last for 1,000 years.
No, it truly is amazing. And when you actually look at all of those different elements, it's also really smart when you think about this building is considered part of the rational factory kind of philosophy, mindset, school of thought. And that would be Henry Ford was also a rational factory. His assembly line was about people, processes, and successful outcomes. Here, it was the same thing. It was vertical, and then you had gravity, which was your main form of technological innovation, but with no load-bearing walls. If you need to innovate and you need to switch up a floor, because they changed a lot of the operations in this building over time, with different owners and with different, types of products. But boy, it's amazing that and the ventilation chamber, the lungs of the building, which during COVID, when everyone was freaking out because no one knew what to do with ventilation, they created this 6-story lung in the center of the building that literally, with high pressure systems, in the morning, all of that cold, heavy air just goes up and it circulates, and at the end of the day, it drops down. I mean, they knew what they were doing back then.
It's
a living organism.
Building. Yeah. That reminds me also that, one of the things that we're doing is trying to be very efficient. In general, this has a huge mass, of course. So we don't need to use much energy to heat it or cool.
Right.
Because of the lungs as well and the way it was built, it was a brilliant design. The engineering was epic at that time. But what we have done, we brought in Johnny's Boiler Shop, which is a wonderful metal fabrication shop.
Legacy industry, 1946. You get everything. Yeah.
Pueblo family, right? One of the best Pueblo families ever. They're just wonderful. So Johnny, who started it in 1946, his son then took it over, and I was actually a customer. My engineering company was a customer of theirs for a long time.
And were they on Victoria? Were they over
on C Street in Victoria?
That's right. That's because that was where they were located.
Yeah, and they've been downtown and a staple of this community forever as well. Well, when the son decided that when Johnny's son decided he didn't want to do it anymore, he had aged out as well.
Right.
And he needed to go on and have a great retirement.
Right, exactly.
I walked in one day and he asked if I wanted to buy a piece of the equipment. And I had not planned on that.
But you like buying equipment, though. You surprised me.
Yeah, I'm the biggest
equipment, cars, all kinds of fun stuff.
We like to be capable.
Yeah.
So the short story of that is we wound up bringing Johnny's over here, and that's a great story in itself we can tell later. But when Johnny's Boiler Shop then moved into the building, we wound up having far more internal capacity to do a lot of great things.
My God, with the steel fabrication, you could, with no windows, no doors, staircases gone, all that stuff, you literally need to have your own in-house steel fabrication center.
And it's been wonderful to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So we brought Johnny's over here, got them up and running right away. We did that, though. Another fun story is the fact that when we brought all of that equipment over from Johnny's Boiler Shop downtown, we still hadn't even fixed the roof.
Now, let me ask you, because that Johnny's Boiler Shop is located between the ice house and the main meatpacking plant. So originally, when the plant was built, there were rail spurs there. So it's actually a unique space. That was
a loading dock,
so
for the rail.
What was it when you then converted it to Johnny's? Did you put the crane in and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we put the crane in.
Okay.
That was also quite an event because, of course, the people who bless everything, decide whether or not it's safe or not safe and all that good stuff. And, my background being in the rail industry, it was, I had a couple really unique backgrounds, and one of them was friction. Mm-hmm. So we actually built that crane system in there, and it's a purely friction built system. So there's no anchoring into the building.
Really?
Which makes it far stronger even.
Okay.
So it's insanely strong. But when you look at it and you're not aware of how things work in that world, it's unknown. So we wound up having to have outside engineering firm even come in and certify things.
Oh, because it's almost like when the Amish, because they're so good at doing all of the kind of the old school, nothing
it's
electric.
Like building a staircase with no nails.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's
and
just
we're building an overhead crane with no hard connection.
Because it is
It was
impressive
unique.
when you come in and you literally just see it, and then when you hook things up there, because I've seen everything from it's like tankers to airplanes to cars and trucks to dam fixings to silos. There's just massive.
One of the most fun things we did recently is we actually did some nuclear blast doors for nuclear submarines.
Really?
Yeah, really, really.
Now that must have been.
And there's only 2 other shops in the nation that have the capability of doing that. So
Wow.
it's a really unique material, and so that is back.
Is it layers? You have to have certain layers.
It's very thick material. Okay. So each piece basically weighed 15,000 pounds.
Wow.
So big, heavy, big stuff.
And you use the water jet or things like that to
We
cut?
actually built part of our own cutting apparatus
Okay.
and the water jet.
Okay. Because I love the water
originally
jet. The
part
water
of the
jet
water
is
jet.
just amazing.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
every time I see it, I'm just like, that's crazy.
Yeah. For those that don't know, we cut steel with a water jet, and we're down to 1/2 of 1 millimeter accuracy. But we have very often cut 7-inch thick stainless steel with water, and it's a phenomenal piece of equipment. And where I was going with the Johnny's and the energy, when we were downtown, when Johnny's was downtown on C Street, the amount of energy we used in that shop is actually more than the current amount of energy we use in this whole building right now today.
Really? Wow.
So, and we've done a lot of different unique things to be smart about energy.
Right.
Very technical. So the other thing that people probably don't know is what we're doing in here, just in big picture.
Well,
form.
yeah, because you've got cybersecurity, you've got data server, you've got all kinds of really interesting infrastructure and businesses that lend themselves very well to a lot of these unique kind of systems.
Yeah, and our focus for Watertower is multiple facets, but the primary facets are we want to focus on energy. Energy is a key aspect of what we're doing, and when I say energy, that means energy that we use, but also energy type of businesses.
Sure.
So we are doing a few things with my engineering company and some great friends in the nuclear field.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a bunch of different energy-related projects and businesses. We have also, one of our focuses is Pueblo makes things, right?
Yep.
Pueblo, and we don't make, as Rod Slyhoff, one of our great leaders of the past, used to say, Pueblo doesn't make things, we make big things.
Rod was big too. I mean, he had big ideas, and for those of you are listening that you don't know who Rod Slav, sadly he passed away a few years ago, but he was the kind of the executive director, the president of the Greater Chamber of Commerce for Pueblo and the Chili Fest and all of these things. But for decades, he literally, I don't think he did anything other than that 24/7, and you could see him in his golf cart, going to and fro.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're doing that, and then we're also focusing on Pueblo itself and the community.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the restaurants that we want to bring in, for example, Pueblo has a phenomenal food scene.
Yes.
We are just so blessed in our diversity and our opportunities we have with all of these great old families that just, their grandmothers had the best recipes on the planet.
Yeah, it's always the aunt or the grandma that has the recipe
Right.
to get, if you're lucky.
Yeah. So we're focusing on that, and then we're focusing on technology in general. So
Right.
you mentioned the fact that we're doing a lot in tech.
Yeah.
So cybersecurity, hardware and software,
Right.
and other things. So that's sort of my background. So that's why I'm interested in it, for one reason. But I do think that's also the direction that the world is moving. So I do think that's
Without
the
a doubt,
future
yeah.
for keeping, one of our great assets is our people in Pueblo, and keeping these kids in Pueblo, Colorado for the next generation once they get out of school, having better opportunities for them, having more businesses for them to choose from, having more businesses that support this community. That growth is in the technical
Without a
areas.
doubt.
And we already have a phenomenal manufacturing base, which we also want to keep and promote.
Right.
Johnny's Boiler Shop, the welders and the machinists and the technicians.
You will always need welders.
Absolutely.
Whether you're an underwater welder or you're above water welder, I mean, we will always need welders.
Yep. And I'm obviously biased, but we work, so international engineering works on 5 continents currently today. Previously, I worked in the rail industry around the world and was fortunate enough to make a lot of great connections and see and do business in a lot of different communities, and very different than Pueblo, Colorado, very different. A lot of them are really good. A lot of them are just very different. And I got to see the good and the bad of the world's economies on a big scale and a small scale. Pueblo, Colorado, and again, I'm very biased, but I would put the people in Johnny's Boiler Shop up in the top 2% in the world.
Oh, I mean, it is an essential industry. And clearly, as you said, this kept going, even during COVID, because you have to have steel fabrication, or trucks don't work, or buildings don't work, or just staircases, whatever it is.
We do a lot of work for government agencies. Yep. We do a lot of work for defense companies. We do a lot of work for, if Grandpa, though, comes in and says, my grandson's tricycle has a bent handlebar that needs to be fixed, we are super happy to work on that as well. So although we do a lot of things that are critical, I think one of our most critical aspects is being community facing and making sure that we have a place in Pueblo, Colorado that anyone can come to, and we can help them fix a problem.
And I love that, because when I've been in the building, in the front and in the area, and a 75-year-old woman will come in with mangled metal. Whatever happened, I don't know, whatever happened, but it will be like everything stops, at that moment, because it could be something critical, could be part of her car, or maybe a buggy, or whatever it is. The other thing, though, that I think is really beautiful is because many of these people, you've built the trust, and they're part of, you've got the relationships, there's this very interesting kind of biblical financial transaction at the end. It might be a bushel of chilies, it might be pizza, it might be, there's this in-kind. I love that kind of, care that's given to those different situations. Oh, it's amazing. And some of the best food too, when people can't, they don't pay with cash, and they pay because they're the ones with the recipes. And the only way you're going to get to eat that is if they tell you the recipe or they make it.
Right.
So when they deliver it as payment, because I've been the beneficiary many times when people drop things off in the front, and that's special.
And that's the value, right? Shoot, if I could get rid of all the money, I would, and just get paid in cookies. Oh, yeah,
seriously, or pizza. Pizzas and tamales. That's my Christmas in Pueblo. I love it. And it's getting harder to get pizza because...
especially when Grandma makes it, right?
You go to Eilers Heights, and all the tables are set up, and they're just getting everything ready and rolling that dough, and it's really a magical thing when you see that.
And we need to keep promoting that. And one of the things I really hope that we can get across to the community is we live in one of the best places on the planet.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that with all my heart and soul. And keeping that small town character and all of those great small town attributes while still improving our economy, improving our economic outlook, raising the bar from bottom to top, that's what we should be focusing on. And hopefully Watertower Place is going to be a small example of that type of opportunity, because when you look at the biggest eyesore probably in Colorado was Watertower Place at one point.
Well, so many people drove by it for generations, and they were curious, or they were scared. They feared it, or they knew someone that worked in there, or if they were a tagger, graffiti artist, or a muralist, that's like the best place to go.
Yep.
And they used to draw their own little maps when they would go in, so they could figure out how to get out, because they didn't have there was no electricity, so they too had their flashlights. Because I've seen some of the maps that Matt Reffick and Strashino, some of the local Pueblo crews, they would basically, find, refuge in here. And we have,
absolutely.
and that's, we should just mention.
They had a PBS group come through, and they filmed it and did the whole thing. And
Right.
It was wonderful. We've actually had a lot of different filming organizations from the Discovery Channel, ABC, et cetera, and different organizations and different stories have been told on a worldwide level, and used Watertower Place as their core backdrop.
And Pueblo is a very important stop on the global. If you're a tagger or a graffiti artist or a muralist, you call ahead, they get the couch for you, you hang out, and we still make certain things, walls available.
Absolutely.
But the thing that's really nice, and we should probably mention, because it will be a forthcoming book, is we have intentionally and on purpose actually preserved, Creature's Crew Vogie, some of the classics, some of his best work in the world is here. And they informed us that we've got Russian, European, Latin American,
Austrian,
North American, we've got Australia, Asia,
all
artists,
around the world.
graffiti artists from all over the world. So we do want to honor that. So the book is Graffiti Art at Watertower Place. But also, if you're a tenant and you just happen to be on a floor where there is a wall, you can't paint over that. You have to honor that piece of artwork.
We have a great area upstairs. One of our great friends that is trying to come into one of the spaces. The wall has some graffiti on it, and we cleaned up all the wall, but we left a big square that we are going to build a great metal frame around it.
Oh.
And even though the frame is empty, just going back to the wall behind it,
Right.
the look is just epic, and it's very classy.
Yeah,
One of the things that we're trying to do is also elevate everything that we're doing, including the aesthetics of this building. Now, we're working from the inside out because we don't necessarily want it to look like anything yet, but if we can get back to focusing on this building, which I think is going to be another minor topic we probably discuss here, we would love to finish this thing up because it's taking too long.
Right.
For me, anyway.
Right.
And even though it's big, we would love to refocus our efforts on this building.
Right.
And really finalize the cleanup and finalize the use, get it back on the tax
Right.
and have it be no longer an eyesore, but actually one of the shining examples of how Pueblo, Colorado has just as much wherewithal and capability as any other community who has cleaned up their downtown, like Odo and Denver.
Well, and this building it's a great location. You're adjacent to the water, to the Riverwalk. You've got parking. You're in the Grove. I-25 is literally you can just throw a stone and you're on the on-ramp. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. But, well, let's talk a little bit about what some of those difficulties are, because one of the things, there is the international building codes. These are codes that are set in Europe, for example, other parts of the world where there are buildings that have been around for 500, 600, 700 years. Well, there are tenants that change and you get a new tenant and maybe it's a restaurant. Well, they don't even allow hoods. They have the hoodless systems in the kitchens, but they have they're almost like pathways, they're variances, they're waivers that allow you, without compromising safety, security, but they allow you to work around instead of considering it new construction. But this is not new construction. In fact, it's really good construction that we don't do anymore.
Exactly, it's far better than far better.
So what are some
We're
of
sitting in a room now where I'm looking at an opening going into the next room.
I remember when you did this opening.
6 I-beams holding it up that are just as big as you can think, and it's going to last for hundreds and hundreds of years.
It looks like it's been there forever.
Yes,
it just looks like it was there.
Right. So some of the challenges we've had is, and it's sort of a bummer because we've started and stopped. And I shouldn't say we've stopped because we are operating out of here now, but we have stopped our progress of building renovation. So while we're still operating businesses and doing things,
Sure.
we have not moved as quickly as we could have, or as we should have, or as I would like. And really it comes down to a very easy thing to fix and an unfortunate circumstance, but it winds up being sort of bureaucracy as a whole, as an overarching issue.
Right.
So if you step back, and I try not to be emotional or too personal about it, and you look at a building in a community like this that is the largest building in our community that has been derelict for the longest period of time.
Right.
And then you have the dumbest guy in town, me, come back after doing his thing other places for a really long time. And I have at that point decided that Pueblo, Colorado, after seeing the world, is the best place in the world.
Sure.
Without exception.
And that's great when you can come home and you consider it the best place, because you go out and you see the world and you don't know if you're going to come home, but here you are, you're coming home and you're going, damn, this place is the best place for me to live.
Yeah. And for a lot of different reasons, but when I just sum it up so I don't bore everyone, it's the quality of life overall. Yeah. And the quality of life is usually because of the people.
Yeah, of course.
We had the added advantage of the infrastructure. So we have phenomenal rail lines, we have phenomenal buildings, we have phenomenal interstate infrastructure. We're on hazmat corridor. When you look at business from a big picture standpoint, we have every opportunity because we have the workforce, we have the education, we have this infrastructure that's already, most of it's here, just like the airport.
And we don't do that infrastructure anymore. Legacy, I mean, we don't do that. You just can't. I mean, look at California trying to build high-speed rail. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, that's a problem to begin with.
Real estate is a big issue.
Huge.
So you take the airport. You wouldn't build that airport today. You couldn't afford to build
and
that airport.
That's an Air Force designed and built, in the 1940s, and it's one of the best fair weather airstrips in all of North America. Sometimes when the weather is bad, all those jets have to land down in Pueblo.
We just put in hundreds of millions of dollars into the steel mill.
Mm-hmm.
We have the largest wind tower manufacturer.
And they just changed the sign too. It's finally now where the old Evraz sign was. It now says Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw up front. We're cutting their second.
I did
sign
see that. Yes, you're going to do that.
Admin building. Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
We're changing all of their stuff, and we're cutting it with the water jet. Of course.
Right.
So we'll be putting that up in the next few weeks.
It's so nice to have it.
We do a lot of work
returned
with
to
them. They're a great partner, by the way. Yeah. Same with Vestas and PWAG and Atcor and every other business.
They're always in the parking lot coming in with some object or whatever it is there, or they drive them in, there's on a trailer, or they drive them in.
So these are our really good friends, and we really appreciate them. I can't say that enough. But when you think about this building, and it's a great example of the story of Pueblo. A really good friend of mine, her name was Dana Crawford.
Yes, and I love, in fact, the book that I just wrote on Watertower Place, I actually dedicated it to Dana Crawford because, well, first of all, she's just an extraordinary human being, but you talk about historic preservation, adaptive reuse. I mean, she was the one that transformed Denver and many, many, many cities, and she just...
I think 56 metro areas.
It's amazing.
Big ones that she was involved with, Atlanta, Portland, et cetera.
Yeah.
She was the biggest name in the country for historic preservation. And why she had any interest in being friends with me or Pueblo, I'm still surprised, and I'm still so
You had
thankful.
a fun building, and she likes Pueblo, too.
She did. She loved it. And unfortunately, she passed just a year or so ago at 93, though. And so I learned so many really interesting things from her as well. So one of the things I learned was I got to sit in on all of these different meetings because we're doing different projects and we were friends. And all of these different communities, again, from a big picture standpoint, they gave a story of their community, and they were similar.
Yeah.
But what I was paying attention to is who was successful. and
Sure.
who didn't, who succeeded and who failed.
Right.
Most failed, unfortunately,
Yeah.
for the smaller communities. And the reason they failed was, again, the bureaucracy and the jealousy. Those were the two key issues that I think I would nail all those down to. And what happened was people like me would come in and they would start renovating a building. That's all well and good, but it always takes longer than you think.
Right.
It always is more expensive than
Yep.
you think.
Yep.
And everyone has an opinion.
No, of course they
Right?
do.
Some of the opinions are detrimental.
Sure.
So many of those small communities would have a bureaucrat that would hold things up on the building department, or hold things up on the fire side, or hold things up because they didn't have enough, street parking, whatever it was.
Sure. Sure.
And so what happened, instead of that community working together, that person would run out of money, would run out of energy, would run out of patience, or something else, and they would just stop.
Yeah.
And a lot of them would wither again for another decade, or
Yeah,
however
yeah.
long it was. And
Kind of the story of Watertower Place before you bought it.
It
All
was,
of that
yes.
revolving door, all those different functions.
So many people
and
bought it,
Bought
and
it with different visions.
it was too big for a lot of people. It's super interesting, but when you realize, okay, I'm just going to do flooring for 6 acres. It winds up being a little bit of a daunting task. So sounds really good for that first,
Yeah, it's like a
100 square
small
feet.
community, It's like,
And then you realize the actual scale of it, and
Yeah.
you say, oh, wow, this is a little bigger and a little more expensive than I thought. So that's happened. We're not unique. Pueblo, Colorado is not unique in this. And the question I get quite often is, well, what's next? How long will it take?
Sure.
And where are you on things?
because that's where I was going to go next. I was just because if you've been to Watertower Place either on a tour or if you've come here for business or for an event, you kind of have a sense of where things are. And for some people, there's huge change, and then for others, it's like, has anything changed?
Right.
I see
yeah.
change all the time because
Yeah.
But no, this is
And
this.
what we have done is we have got our core, our base up and running, and we can walk into rooms, turn on lights now. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
We can plug machines in and operate business. But we haven't really progressed recently due to the fact that we have gotten so much flack from the current administration on a lot of different fronts that I wound up having other opportunities with Dana and others, and I have focused my efforts on other communities, which is exactly what I do not want to do. So I want to make it super clear that my number one most interesting and heartfelt thing to do would be to improve the community in which I'm living in and finish up Watertower
And you do live
Place.
here. You don't live in Springs in the
I live
Broadmoor.
here.
You don't
Yeah,
live
yeah.
anywhere else.
I live in one of the oldest houses in town,
Yep.
1892, because I like old things.
Yep.
And my family and my friends are Pueblo, Colorado.
Yep.
And I am 100% focused on Pueblo, Colorado first and foremost. I'm a little disappointed in myself because I got a little disgruntled with the response I was getting from some in the community. And it's
When you
frustrating.
say some, are you talking about individuals, businesses, government?
Mainly government.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
And
That the government has a tendency to do that. I don't
Yeah.
know, and it doesn't need to be this way. I mean,
doesn't,
I
right.
mean, whether it's taking 18 months to get a license for a pet groomer, or whether it's trying to get land annexed, out at the airport, which can take a week, but then it ends up taking 6 months. People hear these things and they learn about what it takes to actually get things done. Shoot, if you're a business person, that's the last thing you want to deal with.
right.
There are
Yeah.
other cities that you could go to
yeah.
make a good return on your investment.
And we have a lot of personal and business ventures in other places.
Sure.
And what I'd like to do is get rid of some of those and focus more on Pueblo.
Right.
But unfortunately, the environment has pushed me to just pause, a little bit here and there. And it's not a stop, but it has been a pause. And so we're operating our businesses, but we haven't really advanced in a short period of time recently. And I'll give you just a couple of easy examples.
There are a lot of new things, though. I mean, there are a lot of, whether you're looking outside or whether you look inside.
We have really been cleaning up.
The new museum on the second floor, there's a lot of fun things that'll be part
all of these opportunities, right? So we want a great example, the museum. We have all of these great artifacts, and they're Pueblo artifacts as well as artifacts from the building. So it's really sort of big picture.
And we've got great photos. We've got all kind from family, from former workers. I mean, it's amazing just doing our tours. I mean, people drop stuff off. I mean, whether it's a lard can from one of the different types of lard, or whether it's a box or
everything's got a story. And some of them are fascinating. But that's a great example where we were going to, promote this whole big room for a really nice museum that, we don't make any money off of it, but it's a great thing for Pueblo. It's one more area in the building that would have been finished.
That's right.
Well, that's on hold now because of multiple issues. So a great example is, it took 6 years just to get the zoning, more or less, it's called a PUD.
PUD, which is really, it's unique, but it really is great for this type of project because it gives you a lot of flexibility. Tell them, because I remember helping with the writing of the PUD and what really works, because then you have to go back to zoning for development, and then they have to look at it. And of course, the city was transitioning from the old zoning to the new zoning. And here you are with 6 acres. You're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
But
so we have a planned unit development PUD is basically a document that states what you can do in a building, right? So do you want to put a city dump in the middle of downtown? No, you don't, right? We already had, it was a unique PUD for this property, and that document basically stated what every room could be.
Right.
And whoever had done it before we got in here had stated room designation, which is really not the way you do that, because
and the post office hates all that. It's crazy because they end up becoming,
because now if the room we're sitting in was only a restaurant, if you change it into an office, you have to go through a ton of red tape and paperwork to change that.
What do you mean you're putting an office in a restaurant? Or what do you mean you're putting a restaurant in an office?
Yeah,
it's not zoned for that.
Exactly.
This is why this is so important.
And does it, the reality is there's the real world in which we live.
Right.
And then there's the bureaucratic world in which we have to operate in.
Right.
Which don't always make sense, right? They don't always coexist in a really, copacetic way. So we rewrote the PUD to basically say this building can be used for an office or a restaurant or a metal shop or other things, right? And it all is basically picture downtown, anything you can do in downtown or in the
and
rail
you
yard
put
in the
housing.
back.
We put housing in the residential.
Yes,
we have
housing is in
residential,
there,
industrial. It literally is its own little vertical urban village on 6 acres.
Exactly.
All of those different kind of capacities are qualified in that zoning PUD.
Yeah. And so normally, you'd rewrite that, turn it in, and everything would be fine, and you'd move on.
It's like your master plan. It's like a master plan. You go to do all of that.
Improving the master plan for your community. 6 years later, we got that finalized. 6 years.
I remember. I remember.
So if I was, say I'm not from Pueblo, say I'm Dana Crawford from Denver, who has gone down this route in Pueblo. Say I'm anyone else other than me. They don't have time to wait 6 years and the money to waste over that time period and the brain damage to say, hey, I'm going to go back and have the same discussion again with a new set of people because someone retired and someone quit.
That's
and
the
someone
other thing.
changed
You
jobs
lose people
within
in city government.
bureaucratic
Yes,
organization.
you lose it. And then it's like you start over from scratch.
So it's a bummer that that's happened. And then you have, I won't get into the details, but the fire marshal threatened to arrest me for having an event one day. And it's really sad that that's
just tragic,
He knows, I know, and the rest of the community knows there is nothing that Ryan McWilliams should be put in a jail cell or in handcuffs because of anything that has happened anywhere in this community.
Right.
Not since I was a young kid, anyway.
Right.
Don't tell my mom.
No, we were just doing the anniversary of the Levee mural, and that was, of course, in the night of, dark time at night, and watching out for the police because it was illegal when they first started it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those pathways around here.
And we have those instances, which basically, when you have me, you have Dana Crawford, I could list 100 other people by name who have a lot of wherewithal in this community or who want to do business in this community, but they have been disenchanted to the point that they are doing other things. Would they still come back? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just like me, right?
Yeah.
Home
is always home, especially when you realize that and you make that commitment. Yeah.
So we really need to work on the solutions to those problems. And the solution's pretty simple. The people who run those organizations, the bureaucratic organizations and the government in our community, they also live here.
That's right.
They need to look at a bigger picture and say, hey, is Ryan McWilliams or is Dana Crawford or any of the other people that we are talking about today, are they a general benefit for our community?
Sure. Yeah.
And do I want them living in my community so that their house is nice and their house is painted and their lawn is mowed and they have a car and they get to work, right? And they're economically productive.
Yes.
We, in Pueblo, one of the, being born and raised here, I understand why some people are jealous about things. I understand why people are controversial, about topics. I understand why they don't want certain things to change.
Sure.
I get that 100%, and I agree with a lot of it. But it was because we grew up and we lived here in a time where we had fewer resources than we have today.
Sure.
And when I was growing up, we had a lot of people out of work. We had a lot of families that were barely struggling to put food on the table.
25% unemployment. I mean, that is the death knell of a city unless the community comes together and you create solutions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the mentality that sort of grew out of that was, because there are limited resources, if you, Gregory, have something, I probably don't get to have it because there's only a certain amount of it to go around. That's no longer the case in today's world.
Right.
We live in Colorado, which is abundant in all aspects. We live in the United States, which has more abundance than anywhere else in the world.
Sure.
And so today, what I should be doing is I should be saying, Gregory, great, you have super success, and you bought that new car, and you have this great new addition on your home, and I want that for you because now I get to look out my window and I get to see a really nice environment that you created, that you are painting and keeping up.
Right.
And you are actually raising my quality of life.
Right.
So if I can continue that throughout the whole community, in business, in personal, in residences around our community,
sure.
and prop up my neighbor instead of trying to tear them down.
Right.
I think we would all be better served as a community throughout the entire nation.
Yeah. And understand that just that point of when you have skin in the game, and it's not always a lot of money, it can be a lot of different things, but it's a commitment to, if it's your home, if it's your business, if it's your car, you wash it, you get maintenance. I mean, if you are committed and you truly are investing in your quality of life, your own, just right there, front and center with your family, that has a ripple effect throughout the community. It sets an example, not only for your family and for your kids, it sets an example for your neighbors, it sets an example for, anyone that's looking at what you're doing, to better your life. And we should all be really happy that that's happening. But it is real, and I don't think it's a uniquely Pueblo thing, but there can be haters, and they're like, look at how well they're doing, and I think a lot of it might be about resources and culture
and so they become obstructionists in some manner. And there's a great statement that a very smart banker said, and he said, Ryan, money goes where it is welcome, and money stays where it is treated well. And if we can understand that as a whole in our community, our economic environment would improve drastically.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do now, I guess, is, still improve this property, but I do want a better environment before I start spending my money here again.
Sure.
In a serious manner, right? I also know of many friends who are in the same position who need to do that same thing. They need a little bit of support from our leadership and our community. So I guess my
what is your wish? I mean, what's your wish now? Because here we are. We're kind of at this crossroads, and we do have examples of similar buildings, even bigger than this, that did require a community like Crosstown Concourse in Memphis, Tennessee, 1 million square feet, an old Sears and Roebuck distribution center, and it literally is a vertical urban village today because they all got together, and it was a university professor and an artist who saw the vision. Yep. And the rest is history. There's a beautiful documentary on it, but we're doing the same thing here in the Grove. Yes. But I guess what our listeners are probably going to be curious about now is, we talked about the museum. We've talked about like restaurants. The grounds are changing dramatically.
Yeah,
it's
we're really cleaning.
You said it earlier. You're the hoarder, and yes, there was a lot of hoarding. But if you're going to have parking in the circular area around, because the perimeter wall is pretty much done now, and now we're looking at
680 some parking spots currently. I think we can go up to. With our current layout that we're cleaning up right now, and then I think we'll have 900 and some in the long run in total.
It's great. It's amazing. You realize how well. First of all, when you have 250,000 square feet, whether you are here working daily or you're just here to go to visit a business or go to an event or whatever happens on the upper floors, you're going to have sometimes the need to have 500, 700 parking spaces for an hour or two. Absolutely. Because there's a big event. Everyone's got to be at Watertower.
Absolutely. And so I guess my dream or my request right now is twofold, but it goes more than just for Watertower. It really sort of extends to the whole community. I think one is that we start having a conversation and educate ourselves on the progress and the success of our neighbors is a good thing.
Yeah.
I want to promote that and have Watertower be an example of that, so that when Watertower is successful, the rest of the Grove is even more successful.
And this is so important because you can go to certain neighborhoods. I get so sad when I go to Northern now in Bessemer.
Yes.
And that's just a few blocks, but a few blocks, it's all just boarded up. It's so sad. You've got other situations on the east side. You've got the west side. You have these pockets where everything is there. All the assets are there. I mean, you've got everything, but it's just missing that. And this is where I think, hopefully, with Pueblo Urban Renewal Authority, we have organizations in town where they can designate these areas. There's special funding that's available, but it starts with the individuals.
And we need to, as a community, we need to have our leadership realize what's important and what's not.
Yeah, this is true.
Because if you're fixing up your house, as an example, I should have more or less no say other than the fact that we want it to be nice. That's what, in my community, I should be able to say, hey, I want that to be nice, Gregory.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is your artistic license.
Sure. I mean, it's your home.
Right?
Yeah.
And we aren't doing anything, again, you're not doing anything that, what a lot of the system hides behind is, well, it has to be safe and it's a life safety issue. I hear that so often. I totally ignore it now because it's 9 times out of 10, it's not even true.
Well, and this is really true with historic preservation.
Yes.
Because you're dealing with buildings that have an integrity, they have a soul, and clearly they were built at a time when they had certain zoning. I mean, look at railing heights, look at staircases, all that stuff.
Right.
But there are ways in which you can work around that.
Yes.
With the International Building Code, you can do
and the existing building code. Yes.
At the end of the day, it is about safety and security.
It is,
but not that kind of safety and security. It's just like, don't tell me that again because you just spitting it out.
Yeah. Europe has, 600, 800, 1,200-year-old buildings that are still in use today.
Yep.
And when someone walks in there, they don't die from walking into a building that's 800 years old that hasn't been updated.
No.
So downtown Union is a great example.
Yep.
All of those upper floors have, most of them have been derelict for
they've
decades.
Got apartments or businesses that could be, again, this is one of our other biggest things is our urban density. We don't have enough people living downtown.
Yes.
10%, usually they say 10% of your greater population needs to be in your downtown core in order for it to be sustainable.
And 10% wants to be.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
So if we said that for Pueblo, Colorado, that means basically 1,500 people should be living downtown. We have probably
150 at most. When I lived at Central Plaza, I was like the only person living downtown. When Obama came to visit, in Air Force One, they had to put tanks around me because I was like, it was all businesses. And then they're going, okay, well, your house is right in this, it's crazy. We do need more people living downtown.
And to do that, we have to promote the businesses.
Yes.
We have to support the businesses. We have to not be in the business's way.
Right.
And we have to figure out how, if there is a problem, how to create a variance.
Right.
How to find a solution that is cost effective.
Right.
And time sensitive.
Yeah.
So,
and that's really important because time is money too. And oftentimes, whether it's your home or it's your business, if you've made that decision, whatever the reasoning was for you to come to Pueblo, whatever that was, you've made the decision. Now you're here and you're like, well, what the hell?
Yeah.
I would have never even considered it if I knew about this, and this.
Right. Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to know someone to get something done.
I agree.
Sadly, that is
I agree.
often.
We should be promoting our community, and our community, we should be doing that more. There are a lot of people in this community that do that really well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our system, and this is a nationwide issue, of course, but our system in general has become too overbearing, too invasive, too controlling, to the point that it is moving people geographically, out of their own hometown.
Yeah, and this is
not
really problematic because that brings in all kinds of other issues, from mental health issues to, you name it, because if you can't find a safe, secure place in your hometown, because your hometown is your support networks. It's your churches, it's your schools, it's your shops, it's all your friends. If you can't find a place, there are cities in the United States and overseas where you just have to be really rich to live in some of these cities, and that's just the deal.
Yeah.
But here you have a situation where especially with Front Range Passenger Rail District, COCO, coming online in 3 years between Denver and Fort Collins, and then 2032 from Pueblo. All of a sudden now we've got a Front Range Passenger Rail. We can live in Pueblo, but we can work in Springs or Denver. We don't have to drive.
Right.
I mean, the dynamic, people don't realize how big that changes. But again, you shouldn't have to be forced out of your community because of the way the system is actually operating.
Yeah, and it's the people that have the opportunity to change that, right?
Of course,
So
it always ends up, but right now,
I were
people
the
are so
czar of-
exhausted that, it's hard enough to get people to show up. Then they show up and you tell them, now you have to do the hard work. And they're like, I don't want to do the hard work. I just want a free lunch or whatever it is. But that's hard. It's hard to get people.
It's super hard. Well, and it's hard to have enough knowledge, right? So I always say, if I were the czar of the world and could help, right, what would I do? So when an example is when a building owner downtown has a building and it doesn't meet today's codes by whatever stretch that is.
Sure.
You need to have enough knowledge to be able to make a decision to say what's really important, what's not important, because we have proven, our community has proven, along with hundreds of other communities around the nation, that if you just regulate and you just operate by the exact rule of law,
Right.
nothing's going to happen. You're going to have that vacant building there for another generation.
That's right.
And you're going to have that business that did not come to your community because they don't see the opportunities.
And it's the
tax-based
that is
win.
The greatest loss too, because those are the innovative, the creative, the cutting edge companies. They don't fit the mold. And so Watertower Place, I can remember when you first started, people were like, you want to do what at Watertower Place?
I can't tell you how many of my great friends said, you're the dumbest guy I know.
It was a good price, but that just was the ticket to go to crazy, you know?
It is, yeah. Well, and I have a great statement to all of them now, because some of them, know some of the woes and some of the difficulties, and it's been a great education, though. I'm
Plus
very
it's
blessed to have gone
you're
through
in it for the long term.
I am.
And that's the other thing, that people don't have patience for long-term solutions. And
No one else would have
long-term
stayed here
can
as long,
sometimes be a month for some people, because everyone is so transactional. They want an answer now. They want
immediate gratitude. And that again is just a core value we've lost in the country, in the world, I think. But I tell people all the time, okay, you can stand in my way as much as you'd like. I'll still sit in the middle of that building all by myself if I have to.
Well, see, and that's kind of my mindset too. It's got to be for me first and foremost. But I remember when I was working for the city of Yokohama back in the 1980s during the bubble economy, I was working on projects that had a 125-year time frame, which of course is not kind of how we operate in the United States. And when I first saw that, I'm like, 125 years, I'm going to be dead. But then when you understand the culture, you understand urban planning, what it takes to actually develop in a neighborhood where you have to spend 25 years just convincing everyone in the neighborhood that we're going to do this before we go, because it's a consensus-based society. And we're the opposite. We rush to the decision, and then we take forever to get it done, and there's just nothing but problems.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a balance in there somewhere.
There is, and that's what I try. That's what we really need now. You said it best. This building, and this is just one of many in Pueblo. You could look at so many different. First, you have to have an appreciation for a historic property. Absolutely. Because when we first started,
and not everyone does.
No, because fine. when people were taking tours, there were people said, they should have just blown that thing up. We should have leveled it and put new buildings on top of it. That's just a different mindset.
That's a great data point too, because quite a few years before I got the building, someone received a quote, an estimate to tear the whole thing down.
Really?
And it was $18 million. And
I totally believe that. And even then, it would take probably longer than it took to build the thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. And so now, so I've been working on this building, and I know it pretty well. And I want to say we're doing things at 50% of street value. So if, replacing a light bulb costs $100. We're doing it for $50.
Right,
whatever
right.
the case may be,
Right.
If you
That's been your mind. I think that is your mindset you operate with
That is how-
all your engineering,
that's my Pueblo
your engineering,
mindset.
your hoarder,
Yeah,
all of your
yeah,
all those
yeah,
mindsets.
yeah.
It is all about, because you know where to get the best value.
Yeah, right.
Whether it's a transactional or you're projecting out.
Yeah, and you have to in business, right? Otherwise, you won't survive.
You did that with the steel here when they raised this tariffs in the first Trump administration, and you ended up having to purchase all of the steel at
Years
like
worth
that
of-
day.
yeah,
But you were planning to spend it over 10 years or whatever the time frame was.
Yeah,
That's not easy for everyone to do. All of a
No,
sudden,
and-
now I need $7 million instead of 350,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's the way it goes, right?
Well, we had the room to store it all though, because it's all over
yeah. Boy, is that a mess. But yeah, and when you think about the opportunity, it's epic here.
Yeah. No, that is what I really, and I've lived here for about 15 years, but every time I go out, if I'm in a meeting or a restaurant or walking, I'm always looking for the people that I don't know. Not that I don't want to see people that I know, but I'm always curious. Why are you here? Because I still meet so many new people here that have just arrived, just a month ago or 2 months ago. They've got all these big eyes, and then I ask why. And it's all different types of reasons, but mostly, you get down to the cost of living, you get to the quality of life, you get to the weather, you get to the people and the food, and then recreation, just access.
I can't tell you how many people have come from other places and they say, man, this is the best place ever. I can't believe you guys don't think higher of it.
Well, no, and I had a gentleman when I did one of the tours, and he was from just north of Denver, 9th generation Coloradan, but had never been to Pueblo. And after the tour, he came up to me afterwards and he goes, if I would have known that Pueblo was this amazing, I would have come here years ago.
Right.
But it was just one of those things. It just, the image, the perception where he was in his life, it was maybe get gas and you get off I-25 when you're going down to New Mexico. But we need more than just getting off to get gas.
Dana Crawford would say that quite often. And, I think the other data point from her is relevant. So she, in the very beginning, she used to say that Pueblo's a gas stop, right? And so she passed up Pueblo and went to Trinidad.
Right.
So Trinidad is about 10,000 people. So it's 1/10 our size, less than 1/10 our size. And the person on the planet who is the most knowledgeable about where to put her money, Forbes did an article on her that said, watch Dana Crawford, she'll create the economy. Be there within 3 years after she's there and you will do phenomenal.
Yeah.
So she sees little rural Trinidad, Colorado as a phenomenal opportunity. And in her traveling back and forth, that's when we wound up becoming friends. And she stopped here often, every time as
Yeah, I saw her many times at the building, yeah.
And her request was, let's do something in Pueblo, Ryan. And without getting into the details again, it's sad, but we tried many times, and you guys all know what Dana Crawford is in Pueblo. There's no project in Pueblo that is a Dana Crawford project.
That's right.
And there were many that just never got enough support, and yet she went and bought, however,
it was like 17 projects that she had in Trinidad. It was amazing.
Yeah. And some are big.
I mean, that's transformative for a community.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it was everything from residential to commercial to, it was literally in that downtown. It's like when she first, I love her story when she graduated from Radcliffe, and it's like the mid 50s, and she comes out to Denver, and she's walking in all of these really bad, dilapidated neighborhoods. And she's kind of figuring out the land. Well, she needed to somehow create a brand, an image. So she used to wear these huge hats, these big, huge hats, which of course a lot of people did that time. But she would walk down these streets, and so her
All dressed
logic
up,
was, they're either going to run away, and if they run away, that's fine. But the ones that run up to me, those are the people that I want to talk to.
Exactly.
And I love that. That was always her way. But she did Larimer Square. She did Union Station. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
just
Forbes listed, her hotel, the Crawford Hotel in Union Station. They listed that as the top 5 hotels in the world, no category. They are just
was an amazing
plan
and epic. The way in which what I love about that project in particular, because we have a lot of I think 2 or 3 Pueblo artists, when they built that building, there was an intention that each guest room would have original art by local regional artists. And I think Bob Benvenuto and several other photographers and others, they were commissioned by the greater project that did this particular Crawford Hotel. But that just, I love that and sadly, I mean, you've got Hiltons, you've got Garden Inns, you've got Sheratons, you've got Marriotts, but it's always that stupid corporate, I mean, it's so sad, so tragic.
Bureaucracy, it's back to that bureaucratic word.
Yeah, it's just easier. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's not better. It's just easier.
And another great data point from her is, why did she go to Trinidad? Well, she went to Trinidad because of the same issue we're discussing earlier. The overreach and the politics and the bureaucracy in Denver specifically became so overwhelming that the Queen of Denver couldn't get things done in a reasonable manner, was arguing with too many people about stupid, irrelevant things. And her statement was, I'm not going to waste my time. And she basically...
Well, she didn't have that much time. She figured it out.
Yes.
She had already proven herself.
Yes. And, when she's done so many things around the country, why does she need to create difficulty for herself?
Yeah. No. She was I sat on a few panels with her talking about and I just loved her because she was so direct. She was so straightforward. She didn't mince any words, and she had this sense of humor that was just so dry and just, I mean, literally it came from kings and queens, her wit was just.
When you have the 90-year-old lady that drops the F-bomb and does it in such an elegant manner that the whole room just grins.
Yeah, they go, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's impressive.
We'll let you do that.
Bigger than life. Yeah, I can't think
Well, now we've got a graduate program named after her, and there's actual degree now, because this is another lacking, skill set that many should probably have in local government. We did have Wade Broadhead, who sadly he's now in Fountain. He's not too far away. He's the planning director there, but he was our historic preservation guru. He lived it, he loved it, he breathed it. He was a speaker around the country,
and he understood the big picture of it as well. So the last point that I'd make too that I keep thinking about is, we were a couple of years ago when Action Colorado started it was actually Action 22 at the time. They started the leadership program.
Yes.
And so one of the first groups, we went up to the Capitol, sat with lawmakers, sat with the governor, and did all kinds of different things for general leadership courses. One of the interesting things that I learned when I was up there is that year we accepted and put into law 638, I think was the number, new regulations.
Oh, God.
Just at that one session, just the state level. That's not the federal level. That's not the local level. That's not the county level. That's not the city, right? So when we keep doing that for decades and so we're, Colorado's 150 years old now.
I know, yeah.
So if you do that for 150 years and you look at true empires and civilizations throughout history, are we regulating ourselves into a state of being paralyzed to do anything.
It is. It's stagnation. I
worry that that's what's happened around us, even here at Watertower, is if the leadership and the bureaucrats and everyone wants to hide behind that and have our community stagnate because we have so many rules, so many regulations, so many laws, and so many conditions that we no longer are providing a value-added product at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're spending most of our time and our money on the paperwork or the approvals.
It's the enforcement. It's all, yes, exactly.
Which is not a value to you and me.
That's exactly.
In our daily lives.
Exactly.
It is not a value to us as a community, as
right.
Pueblo.
Right.
But here's our opportunity. Pueblo, Colorado is also small enough.
Yes.
That we could, if we have good leadership, so I implore whoever runs for mayor next, which we have a lot of people who I'll just say shouldn't run for mayor, but want to run for mayor.
Sadly, they don't know that usually.
And we don't really have any. We have a few people that have discussed running for mayor and it's a huge step for them. It's a difficulty for them.
Sure.
But my ask of them would be, A, please run, and B, please, you have the ability to change our community in a very positive manner if you surround yourself with the right team and we just get back to common sense of, hey, we want to do good things for our community. If that drives what you do every day, the rest of it's noise.
And that can happen by neighborhood. You as a property owner with a big project, I mean, there should be, you've already done the PUD. It's almost like you're already in your own club. Yeah. You should have your own like coaches or mentor, within government to help streamline, because you're going to have a whole unique set of, and I mean, if it takes a tutorial and a workshop that you go to, and then all of a sudden you're certified as the building owner here, and then you fast track all of your stuff, because you're going to have people that know your building and understand your building and want to see your building succeed, because you took the time and effort to do the PUD in the first place. Why even bother? You could have just done whatever you wanted to.
And that's the other thing that I think is frustrating but fixable is I'll say for sure, and I don't want this to come across negative, but there is no one that understands the building codes and the requirements for this building specifically more than I do.
Oh, of course.
So when someone winds up telling me something different than what I already know is true, I'm very polite and professional about the response, but I am very tired of arguing with people about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what is here, what isn't here, what is needed, what's not needed. I know it. I do 100%. And it's not 99.9. I know what we need to do, and I'm polite and I ask questions, and I'm trying not to be pushy about it, and maybe I need to change that approach, but
we need to start a new 501c3 called Friends of Watertower Place, and all of our mission is to teach and convince local government and all people, what it is that we need to be done, because we're not the only one.
No, and hopefully what that does is helps every other building owner downtown.
Because we've got empty buildings that no one wants to go near. And if they just knew that there is a pathway, that may look scary. Go talk to Ryan. He bought that monster, that needed, it had no water, it had no doors, windows, water, gas, electric. It was a ship and dry dock. But he bought it, and he's turning it into,
Yeah, we can operate now. We operate quite nicely now.
Yeah, no,
and
it's amazing.
Finish it. We still have 60% to go. So we're 40%, done, I would say, with our work. 60% to go.
Right.
And this is the easy walk in the park 60%, to be honest.
No, well, that's the thing, because when you first started and we were trying, I remember when you had an expectation of when things should get done, then it was, well, we need to start filling the spaces. So we had all these leasing opportunities. So you started talking to restaurants. My God, that was the easiest part, because you had too many people that wanted to be in the building.
You know, at one point, and we've pulled back from this a lot, unfortunately, but we had 2 to 3 people for every space.
I remember.
And it's it's
that's a really
longer.
Positive, just that understanding, that mindset, because not everyone gets, an old meatpacking plant that's now turned into, what we call a vertical urban village. It's this new community.
Oh, you know what the other point is we should probably make too, because I get this all the time. We have, so this is $0 from anyone.
Right.
There is not one nickel of support from the state, the feds, the local. There is no tax money. There's no public money. This is the dumbest guy in Pueblo coming back and wanting to take on the biggest project in Pueblo and do something good. And then the bureaucracy stands in the way and slows it down. Am I going anywhere? Absolutely not. I'm going to be here forever. Right. Could this be a great asset for Pueblo very, very soon? Absolutely. Can we also turn this into something that just withers and sort of lingers for decades? Yeah, we can do that too, until someone in a leadership position actually helps to support, and not even support, just doesn't stand in the way.
Or just be a champion, because we have a junior high school here. It was an amazing fast track, and now it is a tragic, sad story of just a boarded up building. And
we keep doing that. And that's the other offer I guess I would make to anyone who's doing anything in the community, whether you're in government, whether you're the private individual or otherwise. We've gone through a lot of different facets of this project that have been challenging, that have been educational, that have taught us what the opportunities are and how to solve the problem. So we do have a lot of solutions to a lot of different problems, whether that's technical, whether that's administrative, doesn't matter what it is.
Sure.
We would help absolutely anyone in this community. And I have a lot of people that do stop in and have a uber sad story about why their project is not going forward.
Yeah.
And again, unfortunately, if I were to put a number to that is probably 60 or 80 of them.
You just drive around town and you can see them. You can see them.
And other than changing the mindset of the divisions, which hopefully the split with the city and the county.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see how this happens. Yeah.
So here's 2 things. We're working with a huge organization that is coming into Pueblo County right now. And so our first meeting, we sat down with all the county officials, and it was so refreshing and so wonderful. So here's what the county said. We're open for business. We are here to help. We are here to do things in an expedited timeline, and we want to try to help save you money.
God, that's so refreshing.
What organization does that, right?
But that is so refreshing, because that's going to make everyone's life easier in the process, and then ultimately the project will actually meet, hopefully, the needs of the organization and the community. That's what we need more of.
So
it's not rocket science.
It's not. And that group was also talking with some of our other neighbors in other counties.
Right.
And they were further along in other counties. They are now focusing on Pueblo because we did what? We were welcoming and we were supportive.
Yeah.
simple, and we're nice, and that is what Pueblo really is. Anyway.
It really is. I mean, I've never lived in a
Pueblo,
city
Colorado.
where I walk down the streets and I don't even know people, but we're smiling and we greet each other and we say, hello, how are you doing?
We have a few.
What high school did you graduate from?
Right. We have a minor. We're talking today about solutions and some of our problems, but our problems really are very small.
Yes.
And they are not difficult to solve. And we can do really well in Pueblo, Colorado.
And there is a lot of power. There's a lot of influence when you have people that own properties like you, Ryan. You own Watertower Place. There are a lot of people like you in town that own these buildings or, a collection of structures, or they have other things in the community. I mean, they're doing it because it's a good business model, because they love their community, because it's something that's been in the family legacy. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. But at the end of the day, our call to action for this podcast should be that we really need to have like this kumbaya moment, this powwow where we actually just say, hey guys, here's the deal. Look at what we're dealing with here at this property. Look what we're dealing with at this property. Because there's going to be a lot of overlap.
Huge,
I can think of like Keating Junior High School, Watertower Place. Fuel and Iron had finished, and there's an example of a building that sat for almost 40 years, just abandoned and vacant, and with a few little tries along the way. But and even when they finished, they've had to rework the way that they operate the stalls and the bar so that it functions better based on lived experience.
Exactly.
And now that place is hopping like crazy.
And I know those projects well enough too that there are quite a few like Fuel and Iron that unfortunately they spent far more money than they needed to because of a requirement from someone who didn't know but was in a position of power.
Yeah.
And for them to survive the next round, if we treated them better in the beginning, they would be having an easier time now.
Yeah, because they have other projects that they want to do, from the fuel kitchens to the fuel farm so right there, phase 1, phase 2. If you can't get out of phase 1, well, they've done phase 2 with the fuel kitchens, but the fuel farm, that's just there. It's on hold right now.
Yes, right.
So, but it does say a lot about when you come to town, and that was an out of town, Denver, real estate developer that came into town, loved Pueblo, but still doesn't have the vernacular, doesn't have the cultural understanding of what it's like to live and work and breathe in Pueblo.
Yeah.
Because that is why this is so helpful to have this just happy welcoming moment, because that's what everyone wants.
Yes. And so the county, I have to give big kudos to the county right now because they are on the right path.
That's what I'm seeing. Yeah.
And whether or not we can do that as an entire Pueblo community, it's not rocket science. It is super easy to do. We need a few people to step up, take some leadership roles, make the sacrifice. I know it sucks. I know it is not what a lot of people want to do.
Right.
But those are the people we want in those positions. When you look at how the U.S. was designed, business people and community members were supposed to step out of their daily life, give a few years as a leader in their community to support that entity, whether that's the state, whether that's a city, whether that's a county, and then you can go back to your daily life after your term is up.
Yeah.
We now
and
have
that civic engagement is so important. Civic engagement is
we now have career politicians instead of people making the sacrifice. We don't want people to be in those roles because they want the authority.
Right.
We want people to be in those roles because they want to do the right thing.
That's right.
So can we get that to happen? Pueblo is one of the best places on the planet for people that have good intentions.
We've got the inventory, the assets. I mean, the buildings are sitting around, if we talk specifically about historic preservation and adaptive reuse. Like we said at the beginning, the greenest building is the building already standing, and that's the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the 10 Principles of Reurbanism. The greenest building is the one that's already sitting. Now, that's the first part. But then you got to figure out, this is your crazy moment, what am I going to do with this? Which I would, in closing, Your original plan, of course, was to do the rail maintenance garage with the maintenance facility in the back and the tracks and all that, because 10% of cars on the rails now do need maintenance, and here's a perfect situation. Is that going to happen in a different location? I know you were talking about that.
So super interesting that has been brought up again, and a few other additions to it. So, my background, for those who didn't know, is in the rail industry, and that is why I bought Watertower originally, was because of the rail yard in the back. But that wound up being a Union Pacific issue with some of the other additional property that I was trying to buy that they pulled out of at the last minute. So we didn't have enough space. It is all designed. We spent an insane amount of
It's
money.
Amazing, the whole thing,
We do have some of the equipment still for all of that. And it's basically a full-service rail repair shop.
Which is not easy to do. You just don't say, okay, let's take the car into the garage.
Right. Yeah. You don't pull out the floor jack and get to work, no. So we are actually in talks again about both revitalizing that project and expanding it even.
It sounds so smart, especially with Front Range Passenger Rail District coming online. You've got passenger rail.
We have nothing but 2 states around us.
Yeah,
basically,
you
how
said that
works.
earlier,
So
yeah.
We have a need in this geographic location. Part of the reason that went on hold was, the primary reason was because of the property with Union Pacific and all. But secondary was, I wound up getting a little bit dejected in our response as a community to doing anything. Yeah. And we have...
And that's another crazy idea.
Yeah.
That's necessary, but how do you make that understandable to a bureaucrat?
Yeah. So again, in closing, I would say that I'm nobody, but I have 4 different very large opportunities that could come to Pueblo right now today, and that the limiting factor right now is my hesitation to tell the groups yes, because I don't want to look bad.
Well, especially if you have to run into, sadly, some really basic, simple things that could throw a wrench into the whole plan and slow it down for 6 months, just because it's sitting on someone's desk and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, because if you put yourself in my shoes, some of these people are just pure business colleagues, and a couple are good friends. Either way, if I say yes, we'll support that, help bring it into Pueblo, Colorado, and then the system and the, quote, leadership winds up being in the way or being difficult or dragging their feet or other things, that hurts my personal relationship with those people on a business front and on a personal front.
Oh, yeah. And that's what makes those projects so valuable, is because you have those relationships that you bring to, because you're basically vouching for, all of them and saying, hey, this is my town. This is my town, and it's a good town.
And it hurts my heart and soul when I'm dragging my feet because I can't vouch at the moment.
Well, and that can change. And I think that is really when I think about the message that we really want to send, with this podcast is, yes, it is about Watertower Place, but that's just the project and the lessons learned and the experiences gained and the roadblocks and the hurdles along the way, which are always going to happen, but they can't be like this all the time, because we're just not going to have
forever, right?
Well, you're patient and Pueblo, so you're going to stick in there.
I'm waiting it out. Right?
But other people, they're going to go, well, screw Pueblo. I'm going to go find another town.
Yeah.
And that we can't afford.
Exactly. Yeah, because those opportunities, the big ones, don't come along every day.
That's right.
And the fact that we have so much opportunity, it says 2 things. One, it says that other people see our value. And we need to remember Pueblo is incredibly valuable.
Yes, and we're so much more valuable than car washes and drive-throughs and gas stations. The last year and a half, I don't know what's happening, who got all the seeds, and they're planting car washes and it is crazy right now.
And I could care less if Costco comes in and other big box places. I do want them here.
Yeah, sure.
So yes, you are welcome, but at the same time, I looked this up a couple years ago, and it was something on the order of 90 2% of all businesses in Colorado. They are small businesses. So what really builds your community is that local, smaller business.
That's
so
right.
Do we need another chain? Sure, absolutely. Not saying we don't.
Right.
But what's going to really build the community? It's not the big box store. Every community on the planet has that.
Yes.
What's going to build your community in the right manner is supporting those smaller guys to come in and actually have some character.
That's the connective tissue. And I learned from Monique Marez at the Pueblo Food Project. We have 829 family farms in Pueblo County. Wow. Again, they're all small. You know, there's some big ones, but right there, you've got another sector. And we're really fortunate in our town because usually when high industry came in, the steel mill and everything, usually industrialization wiped out all of the ag. Exactly. But we are blessed that we have this sacred place in the Mesa, you know, with just a plethora of family farms. But there again, they're all family run, family operated. Yeah. And
that reminds me of a great statement. Again, I'm talking about Dana too much probably, but she just was.
She deserves the accolades.
Yeah, she's such
does.
a character. She came in one day and she says, "Ryan, do you know what actually creates a great environment and why historic preservation is so important and why Pueblo is sort of at the top of the list? What are the key factors that really create that?" And I said, I don't know.
What are they, Dana? What is it, Dana?
And she says, poverty. She said,
wow.
You guys were too poor to tear it all down. And I loved that because...
Well, that flips the whole paradigm upside down. Right. I mean, really makes you look at it.
So in the hard times, it was so difficult in Pueblo that we actually didn't do anything.
Right.
So again, we were paralyzed to some degree, but that is what one of our biggest assets
totally
are today.
Yes.
In two manners. One is that poverty also taught Pueblo how to get things done without resources.
That's right.
Two, it saved those resources for today, and our infrastructure is able to be rebuilt, and we have these opportunities. These opportunities don't exist in Denver anymore.
Oh my God, no. I mean, when you look at Pueblo and just look at the grid, look at the plat. I mean, this town in the late 1800s, they really were planning a city for the future. I mean, they literally had the capacity with water being front and center, but then just the location and everything else that they had. This place, because when I first arrived in Pueblo 15 years ago, I thought, damn, where am I? This is really an interesting kind of isolated place in somewhat semi-high desert, but you've got all this other mix of, you know, and then the topography of the mountains, which of course creates our energy vortex. Yeah, it's amazing.
Colorado is great. The last thing, I keep saying this is my second last thing. Last is, you know, the other thing that worries a lot of our community is that we will grow in the wrong direction. And one of the things I want to make sure that everyone understands as well is that the most ideal size of any community is right around 300,000 people. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is the tax base is high enough that you have a great education system and you pay for infrastructure, roads and bridges and things like that.
Right.
You're also not so big that you have the crime problems or the traffic issues or the other big city problems.
Sure.
So whoever is helping to lead us into this next generation, we also need to realize what we're growing towards.
Yeah.
And so we more or less can double our size, and that's where we want to stop.
Right.
So we have...
And that's interesting, too, because the state of Colorado over the next 15 years is supposed to double from 5 million to 10 million. So you start looking at these expansions in terms of growth. How do we fit in our little Pueblo way compared to what the state is going to experience?
And if you look at the last 70 plus years, our growth has been zero.
And this is,
So
people like to blame it on a lot of different things, but it is a lot of different things.
It is a lot of, Part of it's timing, but for us, for Puebloans, for our part of it, if we took out all the other issues, our issue today is, are we welcoming? And are we a good community to be?
Yeah.
And welcoming means a lot of different things. There are a lot of facets to it.
And a big part of that, too, is that I have always felt, and it's not uniquely Pueblo, but Pueblo has been oftentimes its worst owned storyteller, because it's so important for a community through their actions, through their, just the way that they share their story. And that happens in a lot of different ways. Pueblo hasn't been front and center like a lot of other communities have, just in terms of their own story, which I think is the most interesting story of all the stories. That's Puebloans, Coloradans don't know the Pueblo story. Once they hear it and they understand it, they're like, damn, now I kind of get it. All that other stuff was just, noise and swirl.
Yeah. I just
top 10 most dangerous city in the United States. I just hate those.
That's not even true yet.
No, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's the problem. We need to tell our story better.
Yes.
We need to tell our story more accurately.
Yes.
And we need to tell our story more often.
And I think that is the perfect note to end on, because that is, of course, the mission of the Pueblo Star-Journal. We're in our 5th year, and it really has been, a passion project for all of us and for the community, the way that it has grown. But it is about telling Pueblo's story, because it is Pueblo's story.
And thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been extraordinary, the whole ride. I'm still amazed every month when we get these. I go, we made this. We, like everything else in Pueblo, we're makers. Yeah. So we made this. In fact, I think that should be the second question. When you ask what high school did you graduate from, the second question, what do you make?
Yes, I love that.
I think that would be really, really fun.
That is a good one.
Okay, well, we want to thank, first, Ryan, thank you so much for spending all of this time. And I love the conversation, because it was more than really the historic building, which of course the article does cover in great depth, but it does give us a sense, and it gives the community a sense of where Watertower Place is today, what's been going on, because people ask all the time, is there anything new? What's going on? Because it's kind of hard to tell when you have this beautiful brick facade, which is always beautiful, but you don't really know what's going on the inside. So many generations before just would drive by it when it was abandoned. So there is a lot going on. It's exciting, and we're in a good place now, I think, in terms of, because I've noticed, with the parking areas, there is a lot that's been happening, and foundationally, Johnny's Boiler Shop, the legacy steel fabrication, which is really one of Pueblo's great stories, is driving a lot of that. And I can't believe how busy you guys are. It is literally just extraordinary. So we hope the same for any other tenant that should come in the future. Restaurants, wellness. We've got housing. We've got artist studios. There's a whole slew of things that are in the mix, and that hopefully with some additional support from our listeners, we'll start sharing the word that we need to start thinking about our unique historic properties in new and different ways, so that we can eliminate some of this, which hopefully then will trickle down even just to other properties and make it easier for some of these people that want to set up shop or move here.
Yes.
Because we are an attractive place for a lot of different reasons.
Best place on the planet.
And you're back. So thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gregory.
And thank you, listeners. This has been a special episode of Voices of Pueblo podcast. We've been speaking with Ryan McWilliams, who is the owner of Watertower Place. And if you get the current issue, which is July, the print edition, on page 22 is where the long history story of the building and a lot of what we talked about too in this podcast, some of the things that are happening now, are in that article. So we'd love to hear from you, get some feedback. And please, if you are dealing with a historic property or if you are dealing with a roadblock, let us know, because we're always interested in seeing how we can help. We are a service and deliberative nonprofit newsroom, so we do serve as an advocate in addition to storytelling. So if you've got a story, if you've got a problem, let us know. We'll try to help you out. That's it, and have a good day.
You've been listening to Historic Places, Living Stories, a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast, presented by the Pueblo Star-Journal. This episode From the Nuckolls Packing Company to Watertower Place was produced and narrated by Gregory Howell. The Pueblo Star-Journal thanks Ryan McWilliams and Colorado Housing and Finance Authority for their support of this podcast. To learn more and to support nonprofit local news in Pueblo, Colorado, visit pueblostarjournal.org. Thank you for listening.
Homeownership is possible with a trusted partner.
It brings us a lot of joy to be able to say that this house is our own and that we've poured our hearts into making it our own.
Alyssa and Ryan are among the more than 155,000 people Chaffa has helped become homeowners since 1974. It starts with homebuyer education and connecting you with a statewide network of participating lenders. Get started at chfainfo.com/yourhome. Chaffa is an equal housing lender.